I am just so excited to be here today. If you don't know me or you're just tuning in right now, my name is Stephanie Book, and I'm a clarity and purpose business strategist. And I just love being able to step in and help those who were just like me, who felt like they were stuck. They had all these ideas, that everything was in my mind. I knew that I had another purpose, but I wasn't sure what that was going to be. And so I just knew that I was meant to do more. And when I finally stepped in and put my focus on the Lord and really sought what he wanted me to do, I brought in all those thoughts and the different things that were swirling on in my brain and found some clarity and purpose. Things shifted, and I have just absolutely loved being able to now step in and help other women entrepreneurs go from those scattered ideas, the feeling of stuck, knowing that you want to do something more but not sure what to do, and stepping in and doing, actually moving into a rhythm that brings peace and not pressure. So I want to start with a verse. It's one that you've probably heard before, but it's Proverbs 16:3. Commit your work to the Lord, and your plans will be established. So that is a good way just to keep that in our heart and our mind as we're walking through these steps. And as if you are here, if anybody is here, make sure you drop below so that I can make sure that I can interact with the comments. And being that this is a new platform for me, I might not see the comments. So, but you get to learn. So, you didn't, if you are listening here, if you've jumped in with me today, you're not here by accident. Okay. God, you're not here by accident. God has been preparing you for a long time before this was added to your calendar or you've dropped in. Maybe you've been stretched thin. Maybe you've been craving clarity, and maybe you've been just juggling what feels hard, or you're trying to find your footing again. You love what you do, but something in your spirits just says, there's got to be more. There's got to be a more peaceful way, or I want to build this business, but I just need some direction or some clarity. For years, as I mentioned in the beginning, I was doing everything by hustle, by systems that were felt forced, right? Things that were there that I knew I had to do. I had to do this. I had to do that. And yet I was not really sure what all I was doing. I didn't have a clear rhythm. I didn't have a clear structure of what to do. And I was posting and doing things randomly all of the time, not sure, just trying to show up, but not really knowing what I was doing. I didn't have that clarity. And I knew that I wanted to have some purpose. I wanted things to be aligned. And I thought that if I did all the things, it would make me successful. But without that clarity, without that calm, without that peace and that direction, it just wasn't working, right? And so what I did is I looked to going from that destruction, from that scattered feeling, and into surrendering and giving the desires that I had in my heart, that I knew that God was leading me toward, and said, okay, what can I do differently? How can I show up differently? And what that was releasing that control and trusting his timing and his direction and where I need to go. And so that has allowed me to feel so much lighter, and I'm still showing up and I'm doing all the things and I'm consistent in what I'm sharing, but I have a peace. I have that sense of clarity, knowing that I'm moving toward the right things. I have the rhythms in place so that I can show up for my business, but then still be there for the things that I care about, for my family, for my faith, for community, and all the other things that are important to me in my life. And so that's what I want to be able to help you do as well. So, this time together is not just adding more to your to-do list. It's about finding alignment, clarity, and peace, and giving you those simple faith-focused rhythms that you can hold on to. So I'm going to walk you through a little bit of framework that, it helps you prioritize what truly matters. It helps you have that time, like I said, for your business, but your faith, your family, and your purpose, but without the pressure, but building through peace. And so let's take a deep breath and we can do that. So I would love you, if you are with us, if you sign up, then you would have received a link to this workbook. So I will go ahead and put a link in there into the comments. If you don't have it, you could just grab a piece of paper. But if you want to have this, or you want to watch this later, or if you're coming to this and you didn't know about it, I just put that into the comments of the live here so that you can grab it. But the workbook here will have some different reflection questions. And the first one I would love for us to start with is what's one area of your life or business that feels cluttered or unclear right now? So just take a moment to do that and answer that. And I'm going to give you a second to do that. And I'm going to check on the comments to see if I'm missing anything or if anyone's trying to get in and they can't find us. So what's one area of your life or business that feels cluttered or unclear right now? Okay, so we just talked about this of like what's one area in your business that feels cluttered or unclear right now. So definitely take some moments to breathe and write that, journal that out. If you are just joining me, that's where we're going to start reflecting a little bit and just write down whatever comes to mind. There's no wrong answers, but this is where your clarity begins. As you are moving toward this, as you're kind of getting an idea of where that discomfort is, where that lack of clarity is, so we can walk through that together. So before we talk about structures or systems, we really want to start with the mindset, because what we think determines how we build. So on the next page of the workbook, I want you to recognize that you're not just a business owner, you're a steward of your purpose. As CEOs, we don't do more. We decide what matters most. And that's what I meant. When I'm saying a CEO, I think it might have scared a lot of you about that, thinking, well, I'm not a CEO. But honestly, as we work on our lives, as we step in and we are running the things that we do in our lives, we are a CEO. We are in charge of those things. We make those decisions in our life and in our business. And so I think it's important for us to look at ourselves as the CEO, as that person that is in charge of our businesses or our lives. And so we want to make sure that we are prepared for that, and we're looking at ourselves, giving ourselves that freedom to be in that place that we are recognizing how we're showing up, how we are structuring our lives and days. And so I would love for you to look at yourself and see yourself as a steward of what God has placed in your hands. That CEO, he is the ultimate CEO, but then you are stepping into that role, not having to fix everything, but one that allows yourself to make that path, find that rhythm, and trust that God will lead you in the way. So a popular verse is Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. Clarity it really begins with trust, and peace begins with surrender. So in the first, in this reflection section, the next part of the workbook, what is an area? Think about that. Where am I leading from pressure instead of peace? How often, I don't know about you, but for me, I will put a lot of pressure on myself to do all the things. But when we're surrendering, when we're offering our businesses, our lives to God, we are able to let go. And doesn't mean we let go of responsibility, but we get to let go and know that he's in control and that he will guide us through the things that we're doing. And so where are you leading from pressure instead of peace? So make sure you take time to journal that out. God isn't asking you to do it all. He's asking you to steward well the things that he has given you. And then how can you remind yourself, that you are a steward of purpose, not just a business owner? Okay. So those are some questions that you can journal out. Again, if you want the workbook, I put it in the comments below, or you can just message me and I will get that to you as well. So the next area I want to do is just walk through that clarity framework. And now that our mindset has had a little bit of time to work through and align things, I want us to step into clarity, because we cannot build rhythm without direction, right? So the next section of the workbook that you have, or if you didn't, you can make sure you can grab it below or just journal with us right now. But the framework is pray, prioritize, and plan. It's just a simple clarity framework that I use with a lot of people that I coach. And so everything begins with the question, Lord, what's mine to carry and what's yours? So in that step one is pray and talking to the Lord, asking him, what is mine to carry and what is yours? How are you leading me? What is the steps that I should take? We want to make sure that we're bringing our businesses to the Lord each day and each as we're doing our planning, as we're moving through our lives. And so asking him, what's mine to carry and what's yours? What are we holding on to? What are we carrying that really we should be surrendering to the Lord? And then another question is for yourself to reflect then is, what are you carrying right now that God didn't ask you to? I love that question, because how often we're putting that pressure on ourselves, we're doing the things that we think we're supposed to do, or maybe we're comparing ourselves to what other people are doing, and we put that pressure on ourselves to do those things that might not be in our path. It might not be something we're supposed to be carrying right now. So really take some time to pray through that, asking God, what am I doing that I shouldn't really be doing right now, or should I be releasing this to you? So much of our pressure comes from, picking up things God never asked us to hold. So before you plan your week, before you dive into your strategy, before you try to fix anything, ask him, invite him into that. Number 2 is prioritize. Once you've prayed and you've chosen, then you want to choose your 3 maybe top areas that you want to focus on, things that you want to anchor in this season. In your workbook, you'll see a space to write these down. But I would say there's not a lot of space, because the workbook is just helping us walk through this a little bit, but you can actually make yourself a list of ways. And honestly, if it's something that would help you, I would love to be able to provide that for you, just a framework that's a printable worksheet that you can walk through these steps as well. And in some of my other resources that I have, this is kind of built within a lot of the systems that I have. And so for many people, the anchors will fall into maybe some of these categories. Like you have your faith, your family, your business, your wellness. But your season might be different. Clarity is recognizing, what matters right now. Okay, so, clarity isn't about doing everything. It's about doing the right things. And so when we step in and have the clarity of our focus areas, maybe the 3 areas that we really want to focus on, that will help us. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a little bit. And then the 3rd step is plan with purpose. So on the next page of the workbook, they'll have, there's a few more questions that you can work through. So using your top 3 priorities, create a simple plan for the week. Now, this is a place just to jot some things down that can, as you work through those priorities. And again, we're just teaching, I'm sharing these different frameworks. Obviously, we're going to take some time in each step to really, really pray, spend that time with the Lord, look at what's most important. What are those 3 areas we want to focus on? And ask ourselves these questions inside the workbook. This next section I wanted to talk about is rhythm over routine. I think that routines can sometimes feel rigid. When I hear the word structure, where it's like we feel rigid, right? But rhythm is different. It's flowing. It's responsive. It breathes with the season that you're in. It flows with God's timing. I think that, in Ecclesiastes 3:1, it says, for everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven. What worked last season or last year or last month, it might not be what's going to work right now for you. And that's okay. As we are seeking the Lord and we're asking for those priorities, as we're refocusing the things that we're working toward, it will make a difference. And we'll know that this might be the season for this focus, but last season was the focus on something else. Because when we're spread too far, if we focus on too many things, things don't flow well. Things feel out of rhythm. They feel stuck, unscattered, and then we don't have that clarity to move forward. And so taking that time is really important, to have the focus of what we want to look at, and then we can move towards building our year, building the things that we want to create, finding that clarity in our lives. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is the 4 anchors framework. These anchors help you structure your life and business around what matters most, leading you to a rhythm that brings peace and not pressure. I added this in the workbook, the quote by John Maxwell. It says, you will never change your life until you change something you do daily, right? So we want to find those things that we anchor in our lives, find the things that we can hold on to that are kind of that set specific things that we're doing, and use those anchors to be able to help us walk through, have that clarity, know how to move forward when we are anchoring anchoring what we want to create in these main areas. And so the first one is, the first of the four anchors is faith, and that's your spiritual anchor, right? This is where everything begins. The faith rhythms are rooted in God's presence. They keep you steady. It keeps us sensitive to his voice, aligned with his direction. So this is important as we are working through that, as we're making sure that we are focused on our faith. What are some ways that you can anchor your days on faith? Is it spending time in his word? Is it spending time listening to some worship music? Is it reading his word and then journaling? Is it spending specific time in prayer? Like, there's all these different ways that we can invite him into our day. So I would love to ask yourself, what does it look like for me to start my week with God and not my goals? I love that. What can we do? Because immediately we wake up, and as an entrepreneur, especially, or even just as a mom, as we're stepping into, we wake up and boom, we're ready to, like, oh my goodness, this is all on my plate today. What do I need to do? But when we stop and we build that anchor in the beginning of the day, and at the beginning of our planning, the beginning of as we're reflecting at the end of the week, all the different things that we do, that we have that anchor in faith, reminding us that we're doing all these things as we connect with God. That's the whole reason we're here. Our purpose is built on that. And so we can anchor it into him and allow him to really, like, provide that peace, because it comes from being with him, that presence, inviting him in. So the next, the question on here is, what does a strong spiritual anchor look like for you? So I would, take a moment, define a practice or habit that you can commit to this week to strengthen your faith. So as you're thinking about your faith, what is one of those areas that you can anchor and say, this is going to be a non-negotiable? This is one way that I can show evidence that I am taking time to anchor my life, my business, in my faith, in my time with God. So that would be a great thing for you to journal out in your workbook or in your journal if you don't have the workbook, and really talk to the Lord, speak and spend time with him. And what is the best way for you to connect with him? Maybe it's a little bit of each. Maybe recently I was told about the Glorify app, and so I've been starting my day listening through those devotionals. Now I'll do other things as well, but I start off my day inviting him in and listening to that, and it's very simple, and I've been loving doing that. I think I'm on day 45 straight that I've been doing that. It's very simple, but it's a way for me to start my day. It's a way for me to anchor my day in my faith. Okay. Number 2 is your family. Now, your family shouldn't be a distraction from your calling. They're part of it. So one thing I wanted to really make sure is, family represents the people. Nope. Getting a call. Family represents the people God has placed in your life to love, serve, and grow with. This anchor is about nurturing meaningful relationships. It's the rhythm of presence, connection, and biblical fellowship that strengthens your emotional and spiritual foundation. So you might be someone, well, I don't have, maybe you are, you're single and you don't have a spouse, or maybe you are not a parent, right? You still have family. It could be, your family could, you be your immediate family, your parents or your cousins or your sisters and things like that. Or it could be your community you're surrounded with. And I think that family, for me, a lot of the time, I was growing up, we had my family, but all of my extended family was gone. And so I had an adopted grandma, like she lived next door, and I had other people that were part of my life. And even today, there's people that I'm very close to, that family, that community is part of this. And so one thing that we want to focus on is, how can you relate what you're doing to having that anchor of having your family, having that community, those that you care about as an anchor? What are some things that you can do? So what is some intentional time you can create this week to nurture your relationships? Write down maybe one activity or habit to strengthen your family connection this week. What's something that you can do to make sure that is a priority? And I know as moms, obviously our kids become a big, huge priority, but we're just talking about this overarching thing, like how can, especially as you're building a business or you're doing some other things, sometimes we can get so into the mode of all the things that we're doing, and they're great things, but then sometimes we might neglect the things that we're doing this all for in the first place, for our family. And so looking for those intentional ways that you can anchor into your week or anchor into your days to make sure that your family is included. So number 3 in our framework of our 4 anchors is focus. This is your purpose and productivity anchor. This is where your business lives. Focus isn't about doing more; it's about doing the right things, right? So, focus is making sure your habits and routines are spent on what matters most to God, and to your purpose. It's not about getting things done; it's about getting the right things done. So some different things that we can do to make sure you do that is maybe doing some time blocking, or learning how to declutter your mental space. Like, what is taking up the space in your mind that doesn't need to be there? What looking overall the things that you need to do. And I'm not talking about how to plan your week and things like that in this training. I have other trainings, and we can definitely work together and help you find the right rhythm for yourself as you're working through this. But it's definitely a place where you want to have your purpose and productivity anchor, those things that are making sure you have your non-negotiables first. In my health program, we'll talk about having the big rocks in the jar first. And if you imagine a jar and it's full, you have a glass jar, and if you put in all the the sand and the pebbles in first, we're going to miss the space to put those big rocks in. Those rocks represent those most important things. You having your faith in your family, those are good anchors in your life. Those are most important into your life. And so wanting to make sure you have space for that. So your focus is an anchor, because you want to make sure that you are putting the focus on the things that are most important, that are going to, the whole reason you're doing anything, and the way that it's going to propel you forward to what's most important to you. So I would, once you kind of walk through that and look at maybe some ways that you can put your focus on the purpose and productivity in your days, then I would love for you to look for one goal or project this week that aligns with God's purpose for you. Maybe write down one task that will move you forward in this goal. So we're focusing on small parts. We talked about the three most important things that we were wanting to focus on, right? So then we're going to break that down even more and look at what's the one thing that we can focus on that will move us forward. Not the big, huge picture of all the things that we need to do, but one picture. And so one small project. And so we bring them down into bite-sized pieces and more bite-sized pieces. So think about what project deserves your full focus and what needs to wait. Okay. Colossians 3:23 says, whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord. So making sure that our focus is more narrow and into what's most important at this time. And we've already looked at, what's most important for us in the season as we've approached the Lord, and we've looked for, what we're called to do, what we're supposed to be doing right now in this season. Then this whole idea of focus will make it even easier. And then the last anchor is flow, your wellness and rest. Yep, that is important too. This anchor keeps everything sustainable. Flow is your wellness, your rest, and your margin. The things that help you show up in joy and not exhaustion. We want to make sure that we make the time to take care of us, for whatever that is. If it's making sure that you're eating healthy, making sure that you're making the choices to fuel your body well, hydrating your body well, and then finding those moments of rest. I have talked a lot about this on my podcast and other areas where this is so important, that we make this taking care of our body and our minds an important part of our wellness, our well-being. And then having the rest in there is so important, because we will definitely, whether you're an entrepreneur or a mom or whatnot, you are going to, whatever you're doing, it takes up a lot of space. It takes a lot of work for you to you're constantly going, right? We're constantly in the mode of, I've got to do this, I got to do this, and I've got to, I should, the woulda, shoulda, couldas, things like that I always talk about as well. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves to show up in a certain way, but when we don't take care of ourselves, when we don't make the priority to fill up our cup, making sure we're fueling our bodies well, making sure that we're finding that time of rest, moving our bodies, just even if it's a walk around the block or taking some time away just to breathe and stop and pause. Those are important. That is part of our flow. That's the part of our wellness and rest anchor that is important. So important. And so I feel like this is a big anchor because in my life, this when I learned how to focus on my wellness and not just my what I was eating for a healthy body, but just my mindset as well, knowing how to take care, move my body as not as a punishment, but as something that flows to make my life just run as it should, right? It gives me, I have that energy when I take care of myself. And I actually, when I stop and pause and take care of me, taking the drink of water, fueling my body with the right foods, moving my body, and then spending some time learning and growing, I find myself actually feeling filled up. And though it feels funny because you're stopping something that you're like, but this is a priority. But when you make yourself a priority, you can show up better. You actually can run your business better when you've taken that time to do that, when you've fueled your body well, when you've stepped in and done the things that are important for you. So I would love for you to ask, what does rest look like for me this season? So in the workbook, if you have that, it asks you that, what does rest look like for you in this season? Write down one way you can create rest this week. If you're on here and you want to share it with me, great. I would love to know what you do, what you're going to commit to find rest for yourself this week. Or what's one way that you're going to pay attention to your wellness. Are you maybe it's starting your day with a drink of water, and that's a way to just rehydrate your body after a night's of sleep, and it just builds yourself in habits. And so there's so many things that I would love to tell you, but that's not what all the training is about today. But these rhythms that we create in our lives, in our businesses, when we have these anchors, our faith, our family, our focus, and our flow, your days start to become lighter. They're more grounded, they're more aligned. There's less striving and more space for God to move, more space for you to grow in your business and find that clarity to be able to do that. So I highly encourage you to find the ways to look for those ways that you can step in and anchor your life in these areas, your faith anchor, your family, your focus, and your flow, looking at those different areas and showing up for yourself well, so then you can have that clarity. And then when you have the foundation there, you start building some rhythms and some structure. Then it opens your mind to have that clarity, to have that space of, okay, what's next? How do I move into creating a business that I want to? So I call this the Faith Fueled CEO Workshop, because that is the foundation of inviting the Lord into your structure, into your rhythms, so that you can start building the things that you want to build, whether it is a business, whether it's creating the home that you want to create. Maybe it's maybe it's the way you want to show up for other people or in your service or in your ministry. Having this flow of anchors really will make a difference. It will help you step into the things that you want to create. Now, I know I talked about a lot of different things on here, and so I do want to, as I close today, I want you to imagine something for me. What if you didn't have to do all of this alone? Over time, it's taken me a lot of years to be able to build the rhythms that I want, and a lot of reading and researching and looking at all different areas and trying to figure out what's the most important thing. But what if you had clarity for the next 90 days? What if your business had structure and direction and peace? So that's something that I am offering in some coaching, in my 90-day clarity and purpose coaching. And so this is something that I want to offer to anyone that is looking for that. So you can see when we have, I think this is a good example of feeling scattered. So my tech didn't work out the way that I expected it to do today. And so I'm a little scattered because I'm coming into this with that feeling of not having it all together. And so I have more things to learn and to grow from. But I feel like now I know what questions I need to ask and how I can move forward to, okay, what's my next step to make this better? When I have more clarity, when I have more understanding, and I have some direction, then I know how to move into it. And so that's what I love to be able to help with other women as you're, you're looking for that clarity. You're like, okay, this is great. I understand that I want to have, these anchors, but how do I even put that into place? How do I put that into place and then still build a business? And so I'm opening up some coaching spots for some people that want to have some clarity and purpose roadmap. So if you are someone that wanting to build a business and you feel scattered, you feel stuck, you're like, I hear these rhythms, but I don't even know where to start, or if I'm even on the right road toward that, this might be a great time for us to connect together. We'll have practical faith business strategy that we'll put together, accountability and support. So with my coaching, we'll have 90 days where we'll fill out a roadmap, a 90-day roadmap of what you want to create in the next 90 days. So it sets you up well for what you want to create. We'll have a Trello board. Trello is one of my favorite things. And so I'll give you a map of ways that we can walk through this. We'll have bi-weekly calls where we will connect after our first connection call to find out what it is that you want to create and how you want to find that clarity and purpose. We'll have that call together. And then we will also have the bi-weekly coaching, like I said, that we will do 30 minutes every other week for those 90 days, so that you can have someone that you can keep you accountable, that you can ask those questions, so that you're not just having to Google, but you're having to have someone that guides you. And I don't do the work for you, but I inspire you with the work. These are the things that you can do next to help you move towards the goals that you want to create. And then I have my special offer with my coaching is my CEO clarity and structure board, and that has everything you need as you're building a business to have that structure, to have that rhythm, to create all of these things, and to have that as a foundation as we work together will be amazing. And so that is also something that I'm giving away with my coaching. So I have a special introductory price for this, and so it's $597 for those 90 days of coaching. I will also for the first three women that enroll, I have Voxer access, so that you will be able to send me those Voxers throughout the day and not just wait for our coaching call to connect, but something that where we can keep that as something comes, as that flow comes, as you have questions, we'll have that. And so I'm really excited to be able to offer this, and I don't have a ton of space, but this is something that I know that will help so many of you, because I wish I would have had this. I wish I would have had someone in the very beginning to guide me and be like, okay, what do I do next? How do I do that? And so I have this special introductory price of $597, and that's good through November 25th. And so we have a little bit of time here before a week's time that this is open for that $597 with the CEO board that you receive, and then those Voxer access for the first three that join us. Of course, that's bi-weekly coaching and times where we can just really help you set you up for what you want to create. I've actually just been in I think on week 7 now of my own investment that I put into growing and to building my business. And what an amazing experience it has been to have that accountability, have those things that I am meant to do each day. And I can see the momentum and the growth that I am creating because I've invested in myself, because I've stepped in and done the work, but had a guide, someone that was showing me this is what you can do next. And so that's what I love to be able to help with other people, because I know I was speaking to one of my clients, I think it was last week, and she was like, I love this because I have this accountability. I know exactly what I'm supposed to do and when, or, she would just appreciated that it gave her that extra sense of like, okay, I can do this. And then if I don't know what to do, I can ask Stephanie and she will help me through that. And so I invite you to do that. If that's something that you want to do, just put clarity in the comments below, message me, DM me. If you're on Instagram, just the same, just message me there or put it in the comments of this video. And just let me know. We will jump on a call. There's no commitment to that at all. I want to make sure that you're a fit and I'm a fit for you. So I have some free and clarity calls, about 20 minutes. We'll just talk through it. We'll discuss if this is the right next step for you, or if there's something else that I'm coaching that would be better for you, or a different program. So, but I just want to be there to offer the help, because I remember feeling just so scattered and so stuck, knowing that I meant to do something more, but just wasn't sure what to do, how to do it. And so I love being able to come in and and see that clarity when the clarity clicks on, when something happens in a client's life or business, and it's like, oh my goodness, it's there, and they're just so excited, and I love being able to help you reach that. But friends, I just want to make sure that you're not behind, and you're not too late, and you're not lost, but you're being strengthened, you're being prepared, and you're being positioned. If something stirred in your heart today, if God whispered that you're in that season for clarity, if you're just ready for some support, then I would love for you to just reach out. Again, put clarity in the comments, and I don't bite. I promise I'm very kind. And you can see I don't expect perfection, but I want to encourage you to show up. I want you to encourage you to respond to that call from the Lord if it's something that you're desiring. I'd love to support you and pray with you and help you build a business, or really, the mindset or the life that you want to create. Have clarity and confidence, and have the peace, not pressure. So again, just put clarity in the comments if this is something you want to explore with me, and I would love to have that conversation. And if it's not the right timing, that's okay. It would be a wonderful time to be able to just connect with you and hear where you're wanting to go, because it's nothing more exciting than hearing someone talk about the things that they're excited to create in their lives. And it's inspiring, and it's exciting, and it's fun. So friends, thank you so much for listening today. Thank you for putting up with my scatteredness with this new platform, but I just appreciate you taking the time to listen. And as always, I say this on my podcast and most of my lives, that I just want to remember and remind you that you are worthy and capable of living a full and flourishing life. Success isn't just possible, it's meant for you. Take care.